Hey everybody. I've been watching a lot of really great videos that people have done about their knife collection, how it got started a little bit, and how it's changed over time, and a little bit about how they make a decision about the direction that their knife collection is going. The knife that started everything for me was this Moki. It's a little lockback design. I purchased this about a year ago from this huge store that's in the Smoky Mountains area of Tennessee. Some of you may be familiar with it. At the time I didn't know anything about Spyderco or Kershaw or Benchmade, let alone Chris Reeve or Zero Tolerance or Emerson or Strider, any of that, and no clue about customs. I just knew that I wanted a high quality folding pocket knife with cool materials and really good fit and finish. And I think that this knife fit the bill. It was something that I was familiar with, being a lockback and kind of a gentleman's knife with no pocket clip, and kind of reminded me of my old buck knife. But it was also something a little bit different than the case knives. Being from Moki, which is a much smaller manufacturer, they didn't have very many of these, and it just seemed a little bit more, kind of exclusive, a little bit different. And, that's kind of held true with the way that I still collect knives to this day. High quality, interesting materials, and, just something a little bit different, or at least, of very high quality. So what I wanted to show you today are basically my top 8 folding knives in my collection right now, as well as a couple other close contenders for those 7th and 8th spots. So without further ado, here they are, the top 8 knives in my collection right now. When I started collecting knives, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and that's how I kind of learned about different manufacturers, and sort of started to form my opinion about the things that I liked. My very first Grail knife was the Chris Reeve Large Sebenza. And at the time, I really didn't think that I would get this knife for quite a while. It just seemed a little bit out of reach. And also, they just weren't that available, especially not locally at the knife store that I was fond of going to. But obviously I did end up getting this Chris Reeve, and it was my first Chris Reeve and my first real Grail knife in my collection. And it still is basically the pinnacle of my knife collecting so far. I really haven't found anything that has knocked it off of its place at the top of my collection. The other Chris Reeve knives that I have are right there with it. And sometimes I prefer the Umnumzaan over the Large Sebenza, but it's kind of a toss-up between those two. One thing about starting with a Chris Reeve Sebenza is that it is sort of a little bit difficult to go to some of the other manufacturers like Emerson, which is really kind of not necessarily the same kind of knife at all, or Strider, which is also a very different style. But when you compare things to a Chris Reeve, with the fit and finish and details that go into this knife, it becomes difficult to compare other knives to it. Here's my Umnumzaan. And the small Sebenza with inlays. So these 3 Chris Reeves these are the top 3 knives in my collection, I would say. In the beginning of my knife collecting, and for quite a while, I always kind of thought that Stryders weren't really my style. They were pretty blocky and you know, a little bit more tactical than what I generally liked. But I managed to pick up this SNG concealed carry on a trade, and I've been really happy with it. I actually was looking for an SMF at the time, but I'm really glad that I got the SNG because I think it's just an ideal size, and I'm actually not sure that an SMF is the right Strider for me now based on how much I like the SNG. So that's just one example of, you know, kind of how my opinions had changed a little bit about a knife, going from really kind of not caring for Strider at first, not really understanding it, to now this is definitely one of my favorite knives, and I would say number 4 in my collection. The remaining 4 slots, you know, can kind of interchange a little bit. I'm really enjoying the Whale Shark from Microtech. You know, this is an example of, you know, some things that I wouldn't have looked for in the beginning with, you know, proprietary hardware that, you know, makes it kind of difficult, if not impossible, to adjust the knife. I wasn't sure about that at first, but actually it's not been any problem at all. And you know, this is just awesome. I really didn't know anything about Microtech, and if I did know about them, it was, you know, for their out the front automatics, which to this day I don't have any of those, and you know, wasn't really what I was looking for at first. And I recently picked up this SOCOM Elite, which is just basically a lot of things that I wouldn't have looked for early in my collecting. The grip tape, this very tactical design, a 4-inch blade, which is a little bit larger than I would have probably been looking for before, and a Tanto, and then being a chisel grind. Not something that, you know, I really have anything else like this, but I'm really enjoying this knife a lot. And then to round out the top 8, I've always really liked Benchmade knives. I know they kind of get a bad rep a little bit in the knife community. Not from everybody, I guess, but it's kind of easy to pick on Benchmade, I guess. In my opinion, the ones that I've owned have all been really great. But I've always kind of stuck with some of the higher end Benchmades. I had a gold class. I have a couple of limited edition Benchmades. So I don't know if maybe that has something to do with it. I've never owned a Griptilian or any of those, you know, the Barrage or any of those knives. But this AFCK is just beautiful. I love this blade shape, and you know, this is really just a great knife that really fits into kind of what I like in collecting right now. You know, it's a limited edition, it's a beautiful blade shape, and really slim kind of design. Anyway, I've had a whole review on this knife, and you know, you can watch that and see everything about it, but you know, this is definitely in my top. And then finally, the Kershaw Tilt. When I first saw the Tilt, it's another one that I didn't care for the DLC version at the time at all. I didn't understand the knife, I didn't understand the blade shape or this angular design, and you know, now it's one of my favorite knives. The action is just really fun. It flies out of there on these bearings, and you know, the blade shape, the handle design, really very functional. and the fit and finish is superb. I wouldn't normally, expect Kershaw to have such a high quality knife. I guess I would now after having the tilt, but most of their knives that I owned early on, like the Leek and the Compound, some of the China-made knives that I started with, I never would have imagined spending this much for a Kershaw and having this level of fit and finish. But it just goes to show that, your opinion about things can change over time, and that you just have to kind of evaluate things as they come up. Finally, there's just two other knives that sort of just barely didn't make it in, and that would be the Zero Tolerance 561 and my Damascus Endura from Spyderco. Maybe on another day these would have kind of taken the place of maybe my SOCOM or my tilt, but when I was doing this video, these just kind of didn't make the cut for my top 8. So I kind of wanted to talk about what's maybe next for my collection. In the short term, I'd like to add, maybe an Emerson. I haven't owned an Emerson before, but I hear really good things about them. And in general, I do kind of appreciate what Emerson's all about, and I would like to just try one out. Also, looking forward to the Spyderco Brad Southard. I did get on a pre-order list for the Brad Southard from Spyderco collaboration, and that's a really exciting knife. I'm not sure when that's supposed to come out, but I really look forward to getting that one. And then as far as, kind of what's my next Grail knife, definitely a Hinderer XM18 in the 3.5 inch. That would be, my ultimate Grail knife right now. Also, I would like to expand my Strider collection if I can. A Damascus Sebenza would be really awesome. And hopefully, maybe a custom knife down the road. Some of the custom makers that I'm really interested in right now, RJ Martin, Kirby Lambert, Jens Hanso, Brad Southard, and maybe the absolute grail that I likely will never own in my life, or probably even see in person, would be a Scott Cook Loxa. So basically that's where I'm at right now. I just thought I would try to put together this video and give you some of my thoughts on my knife collection, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. Keep these kind of videos coming from you guys out there that I watch. I enjoy kind of hearing how your tastes have changed over time, and what goes into your knife buying decisions. So that's all for today, and I'll see you on the next video.